Hey everyone, this is Ryan B with Practical Forex Trading. This is your weekly analysis for pound versus the dollar, the Great British Pound versus the US dollar, aka cable. The date is August 2nd, 2020, 11:38 a.m. Sunday morning here in the States. If you want to stay up to date with all of our trading videos, make sure you click subscribe. Okay, so I don't have a sentiment in here, but the sentiment is obviously bullish for the pound or anything versus the dollar. However, looks like a sell to me, right? If we look at this daily chart, we see Friday's action. Nice little reactionary top there, little spike. If we go back historically, we see this has been some pretty significant resistance. However, I would say, however, be careful about selling tops, okay? So what do I mean when I say that? Let's go ahead and look at the 1 hour. So you have to be careful because at all these points, historically, like rookie traders are like, oh, I think this is the top, and this is the top, and this will make the best sell ever, and this is the top. And you have to be really careful that you don't do that because actually what's happening is the exact opposite. So if you get to the point where you're thinking about, wow, it seems like the market does the exact opposite of everything I do, then you need to think about, stop thinking about making the biggest, bestest trade ever, and just trying to grab a few pips at a time. And that's usually be done by trend continuation. So let's go ahead and mark out a trend line in this 1 hour chart. So why did I put the trend line here? So if we look back through July, we can see whenever price reached this, either below, right? It had a hard time popping above it, or it did it for a short time. There we go. Price go, it move above, then get rejected. Then we can kind of go ahead and draw horizontal lines every time this happens. So for a while it was rejected, and then eventually it popped through above, and that became, so resistance became support. So even though in the very, very big picture we look back, we see this to be a top, we do see that if price fell all the way back to $1.30, which was a target before for resistance, now it'll just be support. So you might get a decent sell. You might grab 80 pips, but it's really the danger trade because you're basically essentially swimming against this upcurrent, okay? And you can get away for a while, but eventually it's going to nip you. And however, it's been way easier than just every time you saw a price dip, you would have bought, right? So instead of thinking about selling the ultimate top, just every time price comes back down to the trend line, you buy. So if we would have adopted that style back here, we said, oh, price pushed above this trend line and came back and rested on it, and it's sitting on top of this fast-moving average. Well, I know every time that in the past that's happened, price moves back up because it's an uptrend. So you would have bought there and made profit. Price would come back down in the line again, you bought there, made some big profit. So now, instead of thinking about the short game, about, oh, it's falling, it's going to fall all the way back down, right? Because your brain wants to say, that's the best trade ever if you went all the way down here. But then you're ignoring all these bullish signals, right? In the weekly, we've got price moving above the fast-moving average. We've got this major V action here happening. This is definitely a pipes bottom. Study pipes and candlesticks if you haven't already. So just in your desperation to get the world's biggest trade ever, you really would have made more money just by slowly plodding along the 1 hour. So what's that mean? That means I'm looking for a buy around $1.30. So on that note, let's go ahead and bring up our weekly pivot points. Hey, the weekly pivot is 130.11. There you go. That's our weekly pivot, interestingly enough. So where's our first support? 128.52. Okay, so that's all the way down here. So now this is below our line, as we can see here, right? However, if we look at our 4 hour, let's go ahead and pull our 4 hour up. We can see that we're really moving way fast ahead of this moving average. We are on top of this trend line. But if we think about, okay, if this is S1, 128.52, you know, the pound is notorious for taking big swoops. You're like, okay, well, according to this, I probably shouldn't even hit that. And we might not. It might just rest on top of the pivot. But even if it did, it would still be bullish, right? Because we look at the parallel to this trend line right here. We go ahead and draw it out. And we see this channel. Sorry, there we go. It's quite valid. And all this is saying is that price could go all the way down here and still be a buy, right? So 30s are a pivot point, and we can even tuck this down like this. And that scenario looks a lot more likely. And actually, you want that as a Forex trader. You want the next, on the uptrend, you want the next best buy. So every time you see price dip like this, be excited because you know your next entry is coming up, right? So now if price sits here on the pivot in the $1.30 and catch up the moving average and it doesn't really go there anywhere from there, it might be another time for a buy. So S2, 126.19, all the way down here. Ha! Interesting, look at that. It's almost at this line we drew earlier. So it's no accident that these things line up years later. Okay, it's no accident. It's math, and all you have to do is catch the wave, catch the drift, if you will, and you know the road stops along the way and where price is going to go. R1 132.44. So if it does pick back up, and really the euro's been cooling off, but the pound might still have a lot longer to go. Okay. So, sorry. R1, yes. 132.44. So, it's really about timing too. So if it's going into the UK market and over the Asian market, price is receded back down and it's kind of like sitting on this support and it's sitting on this moving average, there's a good chance that the London market is going to try to throw up the new high. However, if going to the London market price keeps descending, then all those traders, right, are looking for the next best buy. And what happens sometimes is the price doesn't stop it there. It'll dip down into the support zone, and you place your buys there like a little nest. So the last one would be S3. The only way trend at this point is going down is if we had a major breakdown. I just don't see that happening. 121.16. All the way down here. That's not happening. We have to break through all these levels of support. So, anyways, I hope you have a great week trading. Make lots of pips. We'll talk soon.